Well, hey there, I'm David G. New York is a truly great place to visit, but planning a trip there can seem like a really challenging task. With that in mind, I decided to make this video to help you plan a trip to one of my favorite cities in the world. In this video, I'll be sharing my favorite free and budget things to do in New York, when it might also make sense to splurge a little, how to find the best deals to get to and around the Big Apple, and a few more tips and tricks that I learned about in my many years of experience traveling to and living in New York City. Let's get started. New York City is a city that can adapt to almost any travel budget. But did you know that there's a ton of completely free things that you can do there? I've made a list of 9 free activities that I recommend for any trip to New York. Number 1. Visit a museum. There are many New York museums with free entry and many more with pay-as-you-wish entry. Some that I always recommend to visitors are the 911 Memorial and Museum, which is free to visitors on Mondays from 5:30 to 7 p.m. The Guggenheim Museum, which is pay-as-you-wish from 5 to 8 p.m. on Saturdays. And the Metropolitan Museum of Art, or the Met for short. It's always pay-as-you-wish for New York residents and for students from New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Dozens of New York museums offer free or pay-as-you-wish entry. These are just a few of my favorites. Number 2. Walk across a bridge. It might sound funny, but often visitors to New York City don't realize that you can walk across the bridges. Walking across a bridge or two during your stay is a great way to get up close to New York's architecture and to get some of the best views of the city. The Brooklyn Bridge and the Manhattan Bridge are both a great place to start. Number 3. Visit Roosevelt Island. Did you know that Roosevelt Island is completely free to visit? It's got cool outdoor sculptures, a giant monument to President Roosevelt, and it might or might not be haunted. Number 4. Go on a roof. Most roofs in New York City are flat, and many of them are accessible. A few of the apartment buildings I lived in New York had roof access, but if you don't have a friend to bring you up on their roof in New York, don't worry. Plenty of hotels and public buildings in the city also have rooftop access with amazing views. A Marriott hotel I stayed at during a recent trip to New York had a really nice rooftop with great views. I'll talk more about the great deal I got to stay there later in this video. Number 5. See a free concert. Of course, shows and concerts aren't always free in New York, but with a little bit of planning ahead, you'll probably be able to include a free one in your travel plans. If you're traveling during summer, NYC Parks always has an impressive lineup of free concerts in different parks that they coordinate. Number 6. Go to the beach. Coney Island is the most well-known beach that the subway will take you to, but there are many other options too. You might or might not want to swim in the water at the river beaches, but they still offer beautiful skyline views and a nice free place to visit. Number 7. Explore a park. Washington Square Park has lots of life and you'll often find talented performers there. Central Park is the most iconic free park to visit, and you could easily spend your entire day there. Fort Tryon Park often goes unmentioned, but it's actually one of the nicest parks in Manhattan to walk around in. It's also home to the Cloisters, which offers pay-as-you-wish entrance to New York residents and students from New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Then the Highline Park is another great free park that really shouldn't be missed. It offers great views and has a unique vibe since it's built on the old tracks of an elevated rail line. Number 8. Take the Staten Island Ferry. You can get nice views of the Statue of Liberty from the southern part of Manhattan, but what a lot of visitors don't realize is that there's a 24-hour free ferry between Manhattan and Staten Island that passes by the Statue of Liberty. This is a great alternative to the pricey tours that take you to the statue. Number 9. See the largest train station in the world. Covering 49 acres, Grand Central Station has 44 platforms and 67 tracks on 2 levels. It is the world's largest station by total platforms and area occupied. The main hall is also really impressive to see. And now that we've gone over some of the best free things to do in New York, there are a few experiences I'd recommend that aren't quite free but are very budget friendly. The subway is your friend and each ride costs $2.90. The fact that you just pay for one swipe to enter the system means that you can get really far in one ride. Most of the system is really old, and there's lots of art and often talented performers to check out. There's also a well-connected bus network, along with more train lines that connect all 5 boroughs and New Jersey with each other. Nearly all of the public transport options in the New York area offer really good value. The Roosevelt Island Tramway charges the same fare as the subway, and it offers sweeping views of Manhattan and Roosevelt Island. I spent 3 years living in New York without having heard about it, and I was pleasantly surprised when I went on it for the first time a few years ago. Keep in mind that Roosevelt Island is a great free place to visit, and you can just walk across the bridge for free if you don't feel like paying for the tramway fare. Dining! NYC is a food mecca, there's no question about it. Many of New York's dining options, however, can set you back hundreds or even thousands of dollars. So it's a good idea to come with an idea of what you'll want to eat. But if not, there's pretty much always an affordable option nearby. My top 5 cheap eats to keep in mind are $1 slices and $1 coffee. Many would say New York City has the best pizza in the United States. Some would say in the world. Regardless, you can get a solid slice for $1 in New York City. Then the coffee in blue and white cups that's basically become synonymous with New York City is pretty darn good for $1. Chicken, lamb, or falafel over rice. This can cost as little as $5, and these food carts are found all throughout New York City. Some are better than others, but the key is usually convenience here. Donuts. I'm a huge fan of the Donut Pub. It's a 24-hour donut shop that has some of the best donuts I've ever had. The Red Velvet Donut is a staple, but they've got a huge assortment of donuts to choose from for under $5, and their coffee is really good too. On the topic of dough with a hole in the middle, number 4 is New York bagels. A bagel can cost as little as $1 or $2, and it makes a great meal on the go. My favorite is an everything bagel with lox and cream cheese, and you can get a good one for around $5 at many delis. Taxi driver places. There are a lot of catering options geared towards taxi drivers in New York City, and they often have delicious food for low prices. My favorite is the Punjabi Deli on Houston Street, where you can eat a huge meal for under $10. It's pretty common knowledge that not everything in New York City is free or cheap. In my opinion, there are some great offerings in New York City with a larger price tag that you should consider according to your budget. I'm not talking about spending thousands of dollars here. But if you do have thousands of dollars to spend, there are definitely plenty of places to eat and things to do in New York in that price range. New York is home to so many great restaurants that I wouldn't dare try to list them all out for you here. Katz's Delicatessen is my favorite restaurant in the world, and I'm happy to pay almost $30 for a sandwich there. If you go for the first time, then a pastrami on rye with mustard is a must. Another cool place to dine is the first pizzeria in the United States, Lombardi's. Their famous clam pie comes in at under $30 and is more than enough to share for 2 or 3 people. And then paying to go to the top of a skyscraper might be worth it. The One World Observatory atop the One World Trade Center costs quite a bit of money to enter. But it's the 7th tallest building in the world, and the views really justify paying the price at least once, in my opinion. There are other skyscrapers worth going up in, but the one that I recommend to avoid is the Empire State Building. Although it's one of the most iconic buildings in the New York City skyline, the view is not as good as you can get elsewhere, and it's just not really worth the money in my opinion. New York City is home to some of the world's best musicians and the world's best music venues. While you might be able to catch a free concert by planning ahead, there's no harm in paying to see great live music. A lot of the great live music that the city has to offer will cost you some money. The amount can really differ greatly depending on the venue and who's playing. If you're looking for a real New York experience, one of the best jazz clubs in the world, Smalls, has a cover charge of just $25 for the whole night. By the way, when I say the whole night, I mean it. New York is a 24-hour city, and I recommend planning at least one night where you witness its beauty into the wee hours of the morning. Public transport operates round the clock too. Just like seeing some of the best live music in the world, seeing some of the best theater in the world can also cost you some money. Broadway shows will often sell out well ahead of time too. So if a musical or play is one of your splurges, then it's a good idea to get your tickets months ahead. In New York, public transport is almost always cheaper than a taxi, Uber, or other rideshare apps. But if you're looking for one of the quintessential New York experiences, hopping in a yellow cab is iconic to say the least. Setting aside $10 or $20 for a short cab ride could be worth it if you just want to be able to say you were in a cab in New York City. If you decide not to splurge at all during your trip to New York, you can still have an awesome trip. But if you do have a little bit of cash set aside, I think it's worth considering one or two of them. When I'm planning a trip to New York, I usually focus on getting great deals, and then once I'm there, I have a little bit of money set aside to splurge with. By the way, if you're finding this video useful, then consider subscribing to my channel. Having you as a subscriber means I'll have a better idea of the kind of videos you want to see on my channel, and it helps me continue to grow my channel while I keep making these videos for you. Getting to New York City. New York City has 3 easily accessible airports: LaGuardia, JFK, and Newark. When possible, I prefer LaGuardia. It's a little bit closer to the city, and since it's new renovation, it's really easy to get in and out of. On the downside, LaGuardia basically only serves domestic flights, so if you're arriving from outside of the US and don't want to deal with a layover, then it's unlikely to be an option for you. If LaGuardia isn't an option, or fares are just significantly lower elsewhere, then JFK and Newark are both good choices too. While JFK is actually located in New York City, I find that Newark is a little bit faster if you're just trying to get into Manhattan from the airport. There's also Islip Airport out on Long Island and Stewart Airport located upstate near the city of Newburgh. I admittedly haven't flown in or out of either one of these airports, but since their public transport options take much longer and are much less frequent, I'd recommend sticking to LaGuardia, JFK, or Newark if possible. As far as cash fares to New York City go, there are great deals nearly all of the time thanks to lots of intense competition between airlines. For much of Europe, you'll often find airfare starting from around $300 round trip. And from most cities in the US, it's feasible to fly for under $200 round trip. If you're booking with points and miles, there's also a lot of great deals to be had. If you're traveling to New York City from a nearby city, the train or bus may be a better choice than flying. Amtrak has good connections to cities like Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, Boston, Providence, Rhode Island, and Portland, Maine. And then bus travel offers even more connections. You may actually save time by taking a train or bus depending on where you're traveling from. There's also the potential to save a lot of money in doing so too. I used to travel between Washington, D.C. and New York City around once a month. And while airfare would consistently cost over $100 round trip, Amtrak would often have tickets for as little as $78 round trip. And bus tickets sometimes cost me as little as $1 each way. Yes, you heard that right. The catch with the lowest priced bus tickets is that they're usually on a company like Megabus, which doesn't offer the greatest experience, especially if you're on a longer bus ride. Alternatively, there are nicer companies on many of the routes. I highly recommend the bus company Peter Pan if you don't want to sacrifice too much comfort but also don't want to pay too much. I've seen Amtrak sales with fares for as little as $5 from other cities to New York though, so don't rule out train travel before you've checked the prices. I'd advise against driving in New York City given there are tons of tolls and lots of traffic. A journey that would take you, say, 3 or 4 hours on a train, plane, or bus might take you much longer in a car once New York traffic comes into play. Since I moved out of New York, I've continued to go back and visit, and I always try to stay in a new place each time. I lived in the uptown Manhattan neighborhoods of Inwood, Washington Heights, and Harlem. All three of these neighborhoods are great to stay in, but you'll find the bulk of Manhattan hotels further south. New York hotels do have a reputation for charging high rates, but you can definitely find good deals. The truth is that rates and availability differ drastically depending on your travel needs, so the best way to find good deals is to search for yourself. I like to start my hotel searches with Google Hotels since it's straightforward and shows almost all the options in one place. To search for your trip, you can simply head to Google Hotels, type in your destination and dates, and filter the search according to your needs. So I just check those and then it narrows down my search. Once I've narrowed down my search to one or a couple of hotels, I then find the cheapest place to book them. There are also a lot of great deals to be had in New York for stays using hotel points. I often look at 5-night stays with Hilton or Marriott because they give you the 5th night free with award bookings. To give you some inspiration, I booked a number of great deals at hotels in New York City. I stayed at the Hotel 31 in Lower Manhattan for $78 a night. The Town Place Suites by Marriott New York in Long Island City, Queens for 18,000 Marriott points a night. The Doubletree by Hilton New York Times Square for 40,000 Hilton points a night. And the Courtyard by Marriott in Edgewater, New Jersey for $106 a night. Since another website besides Marriott was charging significantly less than what Marriott charged directly, I was able to price match this one with Marriott's price match guarantee. Finding a great deal for a place to stay at in New York City can definitely require some preparatory work, but it's well worth your time since the payoff is an amazing experience in one of the greatest cities on earth. Congrats, you made it through this entire video and hopefully I've helped prepare you for a trip to New York City. If so, then drop a comment below about what you're looking forward to the most in New York. And if there's a topic that you'd still like more information on, then drop a comment and I'll respond to you. Thank you so much for watching this video and don't forget to give it a like if you liked it. You'll find many more travel videos on my channel and I'm constantly working on more, so make sure to subscribe too. Subscribing really helps me out as I try to grow this channel and bring you the best videos possible. But that's it for this video. I truly hope you enjoyed it and I'll catch you next time.